welcome to Tinted. Today we're going to be talking about top loading and bottom loading. What is it? What is it really? So, basically, top loading is when you want to get the window tint onto the top of the glass, so the glass needs to be wound down, and you're going to get the window tint to be on the top level first. Problem with this is, as you're doing that, because the window's wound down, the bottom of the tint is hitting the top of the door panel. It's not really very good, if I'm honest. It's not. Now I see a lot of videos from American window tinters, American window tinting teachers who are teaching this method. It's not good. It's really not. It's not that good. I've been a window tinter, professional window tinter, since 2002. It's now 2019. That's 17 years, and I would never recommend doing this technique. Now, unfortunately, some people's standards, they're not as high as others. They're really not. They're not as high. I'm sorry, but they're not. I sometimes watch these videos and I think to myself, wow, that's really not going to look good in the flesh. Of course, on a YouTube video, if you're not a professional window tinter and you're watching this man do it, you think, wow, that worked. That seems good. Seriously though, people, you really want to see what this tint looks like in the flesh. It's not good, and I want to tell you why. Again, this is for the top loading. So you've cut your pattern for the door glass and you've laid it at the top. Now you can't have gaps down the sides because we want this glass to look like it was meant to be like that. We don't want it to look like someone's attempted to put a film on the window. We want it to look like it was like that from factory. So you need to cover them sides, which is fine. You make the tint a little bit bigger than the visible line, side to side, top and bottom. When you get the film on the top, the tint is too big to tuck through. So what you're going to have to do is, you're going to have to put the tint on the top, and as it lies down the sides, you're going to have to try and push it in down the sides. Now, as you're doing this, the material can grab in the sides, and it'll pinch as you're doing it. Now I watch these videos all the time, all these professional window tinters doing this thing where the material's pinching in the corners. That's going to crease it, and that crease is going to be like this white line. It's not good. Another thing is, you need to give this film 3 squeegees. That's the professional way of doing it. You need to ensure that all the water's been pushed out. Now when you first apply this film, it's going to have movement. It's going to have movement. So you really can't deal with the bottom until you finish the top. So you've got no idea what's going on at the bottom. You do your 3 squeegees, you finish it, you've creased the sides, you wind it up, and now you've got to deal with this bottom. Now, because you haven't taken the door panel off and you've got the rubber gasket to deal with, you now have to try and pick the film up and feed it back in. By the time that you've tried to do all the top, this bottom has just been sat there. It's just been sat there, and with all the movement of the squeegeeing and the left and the right, it's been picking up microscopic particles of contamination. Just tiny little pieces of dust which the eye can't see. But believe you me, you'll see it when it's underneath the film. They took the film in, they push it down, some fingers pop up at the bottom, they just swipe them down and say, yeah, that's fine, not you realizing as well, that these fingers from the bottom also suck up contamination. Why? Because you haven't taken the rubber gasket out and it's dirty. And then these people go, right, done, and that's how we do it. It is not how you do this. It's really not. Again, you might think, wow, that looked good, that looked easy, I'm going to try that on my own car. You really want to see this professional's attempt in the flesh once it's dried out. Because any window film looks good on YouTube once it's done. All you see is a black window. So, top loading, I don't recommend it. The only time I would recommend top loading is when you can't get the door panel off. Maybe it's a very expensive car and you don't want to be putting tools to the door panels. Maybe you're not very experienced at taking off door panels. However, in this day and age, you can type in how to take off the door panel on a Porsche Cayenne, and it'll tell you. Just follow step by step and that door panel will come off. With some professional door panel tools, plastic panel removing tools, you'll be able to get this door panel off. Why do you want to get the door panel off? Because you want to get that rubber strip out. Now, on some door panels, you don't even have to take it off to get that rubber strip out. And the reason is because some door panels, like Range Rovers, pretty much any Land Rover, a lot of cars these days, the top of the door panel is on clips, and you can grab the top of the door panel and pull it and release the top from the clips without having to remove all the handle covers and the locks and everything else. You can just pull it off, pull that strip out, and now you've got that sort of like that 1 inch gap at the bottom. Which brings me to my next point. Oh, sorry, I forgot to say. The only time that I'd recommend doing a top loading really is when it's a frameless glass, like a coupe or a saloon or something, a frameless glass where you haven't got the edges to deal with. Therefore, you can pick up the film, you can put it on the glass too high, and you can just slide it down, and you haven't got to worry about all the particles of dust from the pillars on the sides, picking up contamination and creasing it and what's going on the bottom, because you don't need to wind it up and down. You've got full access of the window. If you're going to do that, I recommend when you open up the door, there's the lock mechanism in there. If you push your finger in and you push it and you hear that double click, the window on a coupe will go zoop and it'll go up. You know how when you shut the door and the glass goes up and down, it's down when it's open, it goes up when it's closed. By pushing that part in, you're going to trick the car into thinking that the door is shut. Then the window will pop up. Now you have full access to this window. You don't have to deal with the sides. You can just push down a couple of mil, and that's fine. Technically that is top loading, and that's okay, because you don't have to see what's going on at the bottom because you've got full access of the glass. You haven't got to worry about the material pinching down the sides because you've got full access of the glass. Fine. But for anything else, you really need to be bottom loading. Now, what is bottom loading? Bottom loading is where you've taken the door panel off, or you've just released the top of the door panel. Maybe you've been able to grab your fingers on the top of the door panel if there's no screws in place, and roll it backwards to pull out that strip. Once you get out that strip, you've got that inch gap. You wind, once you've finished cutting the pattern of your window tint off that glass, and it's all ready to go, you can get on the inside, you can pick up the film, and you can go down into that gap first, diagonally down into that glass first. With this hand here, the highest hand, you can push the tint in just so it sort of collects in the middle. That will make it short. That will give you a chance to sort of turn that hand, slide the tint down, spread it out between the pillars. Now you can correct your edge, make sure you've got the correct edge gap, and make sure that it's tucked behind each pillar. That's great. You don't really have to worry about what's going on at the bottom because you fed it in from the bottom. You know that part's okay. You can give it 3 squeegees, you can wind it up, and then you can finish the bottom. You haven't got to worry about fingers shooting up the top collecting contamination because there's no rubber gasket there to collect all them particles of dirt. This provided that you've obviously cleaned the glass first. Bottom loading is really the only way to go. Now again, I've been watching these YouTubers, these tutorials of window tint and stuff. One man says that I'm going to show you how to bottom load, and he said I'm not a bottom loader. I know how to do it, but I don't do it. Why not? It's the most professional way. Has anybody out there ever seen or ever heard of, or you've got any friends or anything like that, who's been to a window tinter's, they've paid for a professional job, and they've wound down the windows and it's peeled from the bottom? It's very common. Why is this? The answer to this question is because the bottom of the film is very, very close to that rubber gasket. So when you wind it up and down, the bottom of the tint is constantly hitting that rubber gasket. And eventually all it takes is a weak point of the film to hit that rubber gasket, and it's going to peel all the way up. What do we do on bottom loading? Well, simple. The bottom of our film is about 1 inch below the rubber gasket on the inside. Very easy to work out where that is because the rubber trim on the outside of the car will be equal to the inside of the car. You bring it too low. You bring it 1 inch low. And then when you fit it and you get it down and you get the edge of the gap, your top edge correct, the bottom of that film will be beyond the starting line of the rubber at all times. So no matter how much you wind it up and down, it's never going to catch on that rubber. So you've got yourself a safe installation. You haven't got to worry about pinching in them sides because you can deal with them sides first by going down underneath, down that gap at the bottom, turning, pushing, pulling, pushing, spreading, done. You haven't got to worry about that. You haven't got to worry about that extreme contamination that the bottom of the film is picking up, because you've already fed it down into glass, you know, not the door panel, not behind the gasket. The gasket's gone, the door panel's released, or it's taken off, whatever. It's the only way you can do this. If you want to do a professional job, fine. Also, top loading is quite hard. To try and tint a window and deal with the door panel, deal with the rubber gasket, deal with the pillars, and still get a professional job, that's quite tricky to do. Take off the door panel, take off the gasket, bottom load it first. Seriously, it's the most professional way to do it, and it's also the safest, it's the sturdiest, it's the most professional way to do it. Don't top load, guys. I also teach window tinting courses from our premises in England, in Dorset, and I would never recommend top loading. Never, ever, ever. Here at Tinted, we provide window tinting to the Premiership footballers, or if you're watching from America, that's the Premiership soccer players, and they are the Lamborghinis, the Bentleys, the Aston Martins, the Ferraris, so on and so forth. We provide the most professional job possible, and we need to make that car seem like it came out like that from factory. It needs to be perfect, and believe you me, guys, when I say this, top loading, it's not good. Thanks for watching.